Welcome to Sales Mavericks and Marketing Rebels, the show where bold business owners, savvy entrepreneurs, and sharp thought leaders push boundaries, challenge conventions, and redefine success in sales and marketing. And now your hosts, Nicholas Loise and Marco Salinas.
You know, I said it once, I'll say it again. I love me a blues guitar, baby. That's like one of the hippest tie-ins to a show out there for two hip guys, and we're bringing a third hip guy on with us, and he's crazy smart. Folks, you know, this episode, all of our episodes are brought to you by Pina Colada Media. They are the go-to folks for all things podcasts. And if you're a business owner or a marketing guru or a sales maverick, or just somebody that has something that they want to share with the world, if you're not into podcasts and doing a podcast, I don't know what chapter of the book you're on, because it is like the thing to do. Podcast people are now in the White House briefing room. They are in the Pentagon briefing room. Podcast is the new media. If you want it, hit the folks up at Pina Colada Media. They make it so easy for you. You just show up, look good, and you get some cool blues guitar or whatever you want, right? Maybe you want Prince. Maybe you want Run DMC. Maybe I'm aging myself by my music references. Maybe you want Taylor Swift, right? So it doesn't matter. And the man that's on with us, not to be confused with Taylor Swift, though, you know, maybe he is. He is a media juggernaut, just like she is. Kevin Donlin. He is a phenomenal entrepreneur. Looks like you're an Ironmaner or a Tough Mudder or something like that. Also,
Spartan Runner, yeah, Spartan
Runner. He is copywriter to the stars. His company is Client Cloning Systems. If we're going to put it in the show notes, but if you really like what he says, there it is. Hit it up. It's on our screen. He's got a newsletter. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's an avid poster and provocateur, I will say, and really an all things great copywriter and marketing. Have you always been, I should know this, but I don't. Have you always been a copywriter, or did you kind of find your way into it?
That's a good question, Nick. I started out in marketing communications around 1995. I was working for an agency in Minneapolis. Our number one client was FedEx, little business in Memphis. And from there, in 1998, I went out to resume writing because it was words that sell people. And then around 2002, 2004, I went into copywriting for businesses, so words that sell businesses. So it's always been words that sell for me since about 1998 in one form or another.
And as a young man, were you an avid reader?
Yes, bookworm and a half.
Do you think that's what kind of brought you to the written word?
Yeah, I would say so. This is a terrible background. This is the way the light is today, so it's okay. This time of day. But I'm surrounded by books. I have a problem with books.
Yeah,
just to put it one way, a good problem.
I think all really good marketers and advertising and copywriting folks are avid readers, right? And it's not just the craft that we study, or the craft of writing, the craft of marketing, the craft of copywriting, or craft of sales, but also stories, right? So do you mix fiction and nonfiction?
I really, the last 15 years, I've been about 90% nonfiction.
Okay.
Business books, personal development, scripture. And of course, today I just picked up a book at the suggestion of an old friend. It's a fiction book, but yeah, I happen to default towards business and self-improvement and that sort of thing. But to your point, storytelling is crucial. And so whatever fiction that you're reading if it's good, it's probably going to help you tell stories that connect with people.
Okay. When I go on your website and I look at client cloning, you really are focused on entrepreneurs, small business owners, info marketers, coach, whatever we want to kind of phrase that in, but helping them get to that 5 million and above is right. Is that kind of like your special sauce?
That's I tell people I work with presidents, founders, and consultants typically, and they want to scale to 5 million and beyond. So I don't work with startups per se. excuse me, I will advise them pro bono, but I work with people who have good marketing, want to make it great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I got good marketing. I'm a business owner. I'm listening to this and I want to make it great. And that 5 million is sexy, right? Because I'm thinking about my exit. And I've got a little gray like all of us do, right? And though eventually I want to sell my business and travel the world and spend time on the golf course and the pickleball course and with my spouse and grandkids and all that. So what does Kevin do when he kind of gets into, agreement is signed, check is ACH over to you, and you're diving in. What do you look at? What's the first couple things you do?
It's pretty simple. It's like playing the guitar. Back to guitar. By the way, back when I had hair in the 90s, I was in a band. I played guitar. I tell people guitar is easy to play, but difficult to master. It can take a lifetime. And so the marketing is easy to start. It just takes a lifetime to improve. But I look at what's working, what's not, and what do you want to do? Those three questions. I have a prospective client I'm talking to in 2 hours. I'm going to ask him what's working, what's not, what do you want to do? And so I look at what's working in the business. Whatever you're doing in your business, if you've been in business for more than 30 days, and you know this as a sales guy, and Marco's in sales too, you're saying something that is persuading people to do business with you. So I find out what message is working best for you now. Then I refine it because I'm an outside observer. I'm going to see it differently. Chances are I'm going to see it more clearly, and I'm going to refine it for you. Then we're going to broadcast it to more people. And then we're typically going to go offline. Almost everybody could be doing direct mail better, for example. That's a 30-minute conversation in itself. But we'll look at your messaging online as well. And this is all grounded in a concept I call the voice of the buyer. It's the words of your clients. Since I work with businesses that have clients, but it could be customers. The people who are giving you money now, they're saying things about you that you would not say yourself because you're on the inside looking out. And you're
So
on.
do you interview
Yeah.
them? Like, do you say, okay, let me talk to 5 of your best clients, 10 of your best
Yeah,
clients?
depending on the scope of the project, yes, I will do 30, 45-minute Zooms. I'll
Okay.
transcribe them. That's the miracle of, where we are now. We can
Yeah, it's a
transcribe
different
everything.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to take notes. I wrote for the local newspaper for 10 years, and I would interview people on my phone and type it. Now it's all, you can capture every word, every nuance, and you could spin that 21 different ways to Sunday. And that's another 30 minutes. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but it's really your buyers can, the people giving you money now can talk to other potential clients better than you can because they gave you money to solve a problem. And if they're happy, they're going to say things a little bit differently to their peers than you would, because, and that's just a fact. And it really, they say that good advertising is salesmanship multiplied. I think that's Claude Hopkins.
Yep.
What I like to do really is a referral multiplied, the language of one person talking to another about your business, because we all know referrals give you the best clients. A referred client is the best client. So I find what people are saying about you already and try to capture those words and share them at scale. And that kind of works like a referral at scale. So that's one of my trade secrets.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And we got you put 2 hooks in. We got to bring you back for 2 different more 30-minute segments. I got like a little
planting
sheet
seeds.
Yeah.
I have logorrhea. I can't stop talking about marketing.
Well, I think that's phenomenal. And so, we've had a couple other marketers on, certainly none of the stature of you, but we've had some really good ones on. And one of the things that I'm fascinated by is how they're adopting AI, right? And what's your thoughts on that? I got an article you have written about the hidden AI profit formula on LinkedIn, which everybody should read. But go on. What's your thoughts on AI?
Well, I mean, I have a unique perspective on AI because it's the same kind of change as the web. And guess what? I was present at the creation of e-commerce in 1994. I didn't invent it. I wasn't like Al Gore inventing the internet, but I was watching the people inventing it as they went. And our clients at FedEx.com, they were inventing e-commerce or co-inventing it around 1994, 1995, 96. Back when I came on board, I was their webmaster in 1995 or 1996. It's blurry now. The website had 6 pages. There were so few websites in 1995 that they had something called the Internet Yellow Pages.
Right,
There
sure.
was no Google search. There
Yeah,
was
you're
no
right,
Google.
right. Yeah, it was all
So,
portals, right? And all
so I watched
directories.
this whole thing develop, and it was like, so I knew early on, I've got to be a part of this. And so the AI so I'm seeing AI. This is like web. I've seen this movie literally before, and you guys are is almost as old as I am, maybe not Marco, but we've seen this movie before. So you can wait until Chat GPT Pro becomes free, but you're gonna what used to take months and years is happening in days and hours.
I think it's great
And it's
for I think it's
yeah,
great
go ahead.
for like when you're getting ready to write to do your research, right? Now, it's you gotta make sure it's fact-based, right? Because there is a lot of junk in it. But
Mhm.
I just find it easy. It used to be the first step would go be Google stuff, right? Nowadays it's go to Chat GPT and start looking up and researching. I like you,
Absolutely.
my first big marketing job was 1997. I just finished up an MBA and I was for a large organization and we put in essence brochureware up, right? So a web, but it was like
Yeah,
nobody else
brochure.
had anything on the internet. And I was in a very really cool direct response certificate program that was actually funded by Sears Roebuck. And it was run through a local university, DePaul University. And in that my class, I had the benefit of having Sears, which I don't even know if it's a brand anymore, right? I think a private equity guy ran it into the ground, but their e-commerce person was in my class, right? So it was a class that we took together for like 6 months. And what they were doing back then, like we could throw that up on and not even in a weekend, in like 3 hours and drop ship, and it's the world has changed so much and we just have to blink and it's going to just continue to change. So it's just fascinating to me. One of the things that I always love when I talk to really bright copywriters and marketers is, um, you know, most you said something that I think is intriguing is I'm going to see something from in your business that you're not going to see because I'm an outsider. And that
Mhm.
might be like that secret one or two things that you just are turning that screwdriver on. Do you have examples? And maybe you can't say, that would just kind of protect the innocent. I respect that. But like, were there some clients that you took on, you're like, why aren't we talking about this? Or and the other thing I'm fascinated to know is, are there some clients that pivoted their business just because you had such an aha moment?
So I'll give you 2 examples.
Okay.
Um, the fun one was I worked for a guy who sold test prep software.
Okay.
This was to help, and it was online too. So it was a precursor of SaaS. And you signed up, and your kid took the software tests, and they improved their SAT scores, and they got
Okay.
into
All
a
right.
better
So
college.
you're online and the ACTs and
Right.
PSATs and SATs for those that don't have children. It's what we all fret about to get them into a good school so you
Right.
can write a
So
multi-six-figure check.
So on the inside, his headline that he had about his business, and he was doing well. He was on Good Morning America. He was a
Okay.
nationally
Yeah.
known guy, right? Not a schlub. His headline was results-based test prep. Now say that 3 times fast. I know it from memory. So I said, well, okay. And so I was doing research. This was before I came up with the concept voice of the buyer, before AI, several years ago. And I was out doing research in the wild. Well, it turns out my daughter went to Kumon, which is where kids went for test prep.
Sure.
And I saw this conversation going on. This girl opened a letter of rejection from a college because her test scores were too low, right? Which is the what you want to avoid as a parent. And she said, "Mom, Dad, I got rejected." Bing,
Light
bing,
bulb.
bing.
Yep.
So that became the headline. I wrote a sales letter around that. Sales went up 139% in 30 days, and he added $1 million more than that over several years in extra revenue. He credited to that change. I saw the business from the outside as a parent. It's nice that I was part of the market, but I was just out in the wild observing, right? Observing his buyers, not him, but similar buyers. So when I say voice of the buyer, it doesn't even have to be your buyers. It could be people buying comparative stuff. That was a really cool incident. The other one was a bigger one. And I won't name the client, but you know him, and so I think Mark will may too. His name was, we'll call him Steve A. He's a Dan Kennedy guy, just like Nick and I. And when I came on board, his business was 15 million. We ended up going to 102 million in about 5-6 years. Did I do it all? No, no, no. But I wrote a sales letter that mailed nationwide for 5 years. And part of that sales letter was me interviewing dog owners, because it was for a chain of pet stores.
Sure. Yeah.
And there was a line of copy in there that I overheard, and I also massaged it a bit, but it was about, you may have heard those tragic news stories about dogs that were poisoned by contaminated food. It's a tragic reminder of how much, your little friend is depending on you to make the right choices. I'm saying that from memory. It's probably 90% accurate. But it was basically, this was at the time when there was contaminated dog food coming over from China. So he was talking about, come to our pet stores, great selection, service, price. He had a good sales letter already, but I injected stuff like that I overheard dog owners talking about. And boom, this letter, I think he said it doubled the response pretty quickly, and it mailed nationwide for 5 years. It was a big winner.
Yeah.
And but I was just pulling stuff. I wasn't pulling it out of my head. That's what's key. I was listening to dog owners talking about their dogs. And there was a big fear at that time about contaminated dog food. So this was just right out of the air. I pulled it because my ears were open. So that's how
before the Farmers Fresh and that type of thing too, right? So,
I'm sorry,
right? It is before Farmers Fresh and all that became so popular,
right? Yeah, it might have been at the same time. It wasn't that long ago. But I mean, the point being,
go ahead.
Yeah, if you're out listening to people talking about your business, and we could talk about techniques for doing that, but just listen to your clients. Just review your testimonials. That's my favorite trick. Anyone can do this with ChatGPT. By the way, I sent you a message, Nick. You can check it later, but I analyzed your testimonials on LinkedIn, and I found out what people were saying about you. And it's probably stuff that you wouldn't say in exactly that way, but I think you'll find it insightful.
That's
actually.
Yeah, I'm afraid to read it, but I'll take a look at it. So I want to do 2 follow-up questions. One is, I think you glossed over some things because you're a genius. One is like that, mom and dad, I got rejected again, right? The last thing any parent wants to hear. What did you craft? What was the headline then that you then created for that?
That was the headline, Nick.
That was it. I thought it would be, but I didn't want to go off.
No,
and then
with quote marks around it. Yeah.
Right. So that's then goes into the sales letter, which you're a big fan of offline, right? Also
that was actually an online piece. Yeah.
Like a landing page. Would it be a landing page?
Yeah. And then the subhead was something like "Discover the dirty little secret that America's 2% are using to get their children into America's best university," something like that. So there was a subhead.
Good stuff. Now you said, and then the other gentleman that we're talking about, he's a phenomenal entrepreneur and a really good guy too. I mean, he's like one that you really want to see win. He had, I had the opportunity to be in the audience when he was speaking at one of our events, and he has said a lot of their growth was certainly from the marketing that you helped them with, but also was through acquisition, right? And they were able to acquire companies at a higher rate because they knew that their marketing was so dialed in, right? That they could get their multiple back faster than anything.
All they had to do was mail the letter that I wrote when they opened a new store. So the letter mailed all over America. Yeah. So that was the beauty of having predictable income. You just plug the letter into whatever city they're in. Boom.
All right. So I want to go on that because I like this. And, Mark will jump in because I could dominate this. I know because I geek out of this stuff. So
no, you're all good.
If I'm a business owner and I'm like direct mail, how, like, you don't convince me, but how do you figure out what the right list is to go to so that I can, at least see a good return on investment on that?
So that's a very good question. So list is most important.
Right.
So the America's best list broker, I'll tell you his name. You know him. His name is Craig Simpson. Anyone listening to this? find Craig Simpson, Google him. Simpson Direct is his business. He's Dan Kennedy's list guy, and tell him that Nick and Kevin sent you.
Yeah, please do. I love Craig.
So the list is paramount, right? And so secondary in importance is the offer, and only third is the genius stuff that I write. It's list, offer, copy. So list is number one. I tell people, look, let's prove the concept, right? So everyone has the best list in the world. It's called your customer list, the people who have already bought from you. It's also called a house list. Anyone who's given you money in the past is the very best person to try to sell something to in the future. And if you absolutely say you're selling coffins, for example, well, that's, it's a one-time sale, but you can get a referral, or you can get a testimonial, you can start a conversation, you can do something with that list. So, and that's a worst case scenario. I can make money for a funeral parlor, right? Because if Nick bought a coffin, it's got to be addressed to Nick's wife. Well, I know where Nick's wife lives because I got his address. So start with your in-house list. And if you want to get super specific, just, do some triage on your client list. If you've got 1,000 clients, probably 200, 80-20, right? Probably 200 of them are really good clients. And so what can you do? What can you say to those top 200 clients? That's a list of 200. It's going to be highly responsive. I won't go too deep into the weeds here, but can you sell them an advanced version of what you've sold? Can you lock them into an annual contract or some sort of, monthly agreement? Can you bring them? I'm just doing this for another client. Can you bring them on board an advisory board or a mastermind for free? Anyone who's got clients who rely on them for advice, offer the very best 5% a free mastermind group that you host. And you can keep in touch with those folks offline. But if you get 10 of your best clients on a Zoom with you, how can you fail to get some sort of a deal out of that? And you're not going to be, predatory or transactional about it. But if you deliver value to your top 10 clients for 45 minutes, they're going to refer you. You don't even have to try. And you can start this communication offline with a letter so that it gets read and gets open. And people give anything tangible more credibility and more attention. So that's extremely valuable stuff. So I'm just riffing here, but just start. Number one, start with your in-house list.
Yeah, people stayed on because you dropped gold at 20 minutes. Especially for coaches and consultants or info marketers or people that are selling advice, if you will. Are you still a big fan of the Federal Express? I know they were a client of yours, so you probably still want to give them some business. So, if you're doing a direct mail piece, are you doing it in an oversized thing to kind of jump through?
I will do FedEx whenever I can. And the good thing about it is I have an account. Not everybody does, but I mean, a 3-day FedEx for me costs less than it's like $9.90. It's cheaper than priority mail.
Right. So all in the letter's a couple bucks, you're $10-12, but what's a client worth to you? Now, the other question I have is, so I, certainly, like direct mail and big fan of it, and had a shop that we did it, right? Marco and I were talking about the days when I owned RSVP. We were mailing 350,000 postcards at least 6 times a year, if not more. So walk me through though, did COVID and people going to work from home, like, is direct mail, if I'm going B2B still, is it easy to get to? Are people back in the offices and it's making its way, or is it just, going right in the proverbial trash can?
No, it's more of a challenge to get people's home addresses. I have access to some new list sources that have just come online in the last 6 months or so, where I can find people at home through my contact.
Business owner, business person, whoever I want to get to, and now I get a reverse engineer and I can get to their house and I can
find them. Yeah, okay. And I can find them, and it's because of AI. Frankly, it's because they're able to now pull up to like 50 data points sometimes on people. If you give my guys like the phone number, they can pull 49 other pieces of data, and in there is going to be their home address. So that's what's possible.
And how about their credit worthiness?
I believe that's a select that we can find. Yeah, we can certainly find like this, their income and the size of their house, that sort of stuff. Basically, the good news, you can find anything on anybody. Bad news, anybody can find anything on you. Right?
I mean,
here in the States, It's different in Canada and other countries, but here there's no privacy, and that's just a fact. And so just, you might as well embrace it.
You know, the
Just a
interesting,
quick note, I'll jump in if you guys don't
Yeah.
mind, Nick.
no, please.
On that note, I had a credit and debt related business, credit and debt services. I went out and got a list of people that had exactly 2 or 3 recent late payments that were very close to their credit limits, and sent them a letter saying, hey, I'd like to offer you debt relief service. So you can get that doggone narrowed down. That's pretty crazy.
You know, it's what it is.
You know, one of the things that I'm always fascinated by, and you said it, you know, it's, and Dan would say this, Dan Kennedy is who we're referencing, right? One of the greats in kind of how we're all kind of glued together in this world. You know, would say that you don't, one of his secret sauce was list selection, right? So whenever he was doing a project for people, it was list selection. Then the other thing you mentioned, and he was a big advocate of, is listening to conversations, right? Listening, if you tape your salespeople, listen to those, good and bad and indifferent, right? Many times you're going to squeal and say, oh my God, you know, but listen to those conversations because they will guide you to where you want to go. One of the things, though, is many people, you called it a house list, right? So these are people that are giving you money. Cold acquisition through direct mail strikes me as still very expensive. And if I'm a business owner, I've never done it, I might put my shackles up. Prove me wrong on that, Kevin.
Well, that's a very good question. So the answer gets back to the list, right? But taking a broader look, if you can't make this I learned from Gary Bencivenga, who is probably the best living copywriter in America or anywhere. He said, let's start with FedEx, right? So you've got a delivery medium here that gets 100% open rate. Interesting. So, you know, if you get any sort of a good list, and it takes some doing to find these lists, but if you start with something that you know is going to be open and it costs $10 to send, you just need to invent something that makes it cost effective. Work backwards from the fact that you've got someone's 100% of their attention, right? Work backwards and design something. That's the challenge I give to people is and so here's an example. I worked with a person we know named Darcy. One of her clients was thinking of launching a high-priced coaching service. Their highest price was like maybe 12, 20 grand a year. They wanted to launch something at 79,000 a year. And so I wrote the sales letter for that. It was delivered by FedEx to their house list, their current members. Well, we sold nearly $700,000 in 21 days because we wrote a letter that got delivered by FedEx. And the beauty of this was that the service didn't even exist at the time we mailed the letter. I also wrote the speech that he gave from the platform to sell it at their annual event. But we thought we've got a way to get a message to people that we know they're going to read and act on. So let's think big. And so they actually created, it was a 4 or 5 times higher price because we knew the message would get read, and it was a huge success. And they mailed the same letter again the next year, gave the same speech. The total revenue on that was $1.2 million in 2 years. So when people ask that question that you just asked, Nick, I say, well, let's turn that around. If you knew you could get a message opened by either your current clients or a good lookalike audience that we can find, what could you sell them that makes the acquisition cost trivial?
Yeah.
And that's the question I suggest people try to answer. It's a fun question. And for my client that I wrote that FedEx sales letter, I think it was 9 pages long. Didn't have to go 60 pages because these were people who already knew him. But it sold something for $79,000 a year very well.
All right. We're coming up. I could talk to you all day. So we're going to have to bring you on a couple more times because you get such.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
So what are you excited about? What are there any industries that you're working in that you're really excited about? What keeps Kevin joyful?
Well, what's really exciting to me is, that there's AI and then there are AI agents. This is teams of processes that can be out there working for you. I'm stringing together stuff. I'm working on some things that'll turn your customer testimonials into postcards that go out to lists that I find for you that are people who are looking for what you're selling them, like people who are looking for big case dental
Sure.
implant cases
Yeah,
for like
yeah.
10, 20,000. That's what's possible. And it's coming this year and I want to be a part of it. So I'm talking to a couple people about that. So it's really what's possible in terms of AI. Anything you can think of pretty much can be done. That sounds like a mind-blowing question. Any process you can think of can probably be done this year. And it's just my question, there's so many directions I could be going. I don't even want to show you my desk because it's a stack of just notes and ideas. And I'm normally a very linear thinking person, but I'm telling you, there's so much opportunity in this year, 2025, that the big challenge is to just focus and execute and to delegate whatever you can, to AI or AI agents, and just make yourself a student. I spend an hour every morning now. I used to read for an hour every morning. Now I'm still reading every morning, but it's really a lot of AI stuff that's coming through my inbox. And that's what you got to do is just make yourself a student of this. So it's very exciting.
I think the interesting thing about AI, and you said it, we're going to kind of do circle of life here. It's like being on the front end of the internet, right? So, I mean, it's ground zero. Some people are a little bit
Mhm.
more ahead of others, but you could get up to speed if you're a business owner and you want to really get it implemented, or find somebody to help you, right? If you just can't do it.
I would say position yourself smartly. So we remember businesses that put .com after their name to look hip, and that was like, that aged for about 6 months. So, Kevin.com, that's my company. Well, yeah, you got a website, super duper, but it's just expected that you had a website after a few months and years. So don't make yourself an AI expert or an AI consultant. I think that's not going to age so well. It's to me anyway. Stop talking about AI and just show the results,
Show the
really,
results,
and
or
and
bake it
blow
into your
people's minds. Yeah,
bake it into your process, then show the
blow
results.
people's minds, and then when they ask how you did it, you say, "Well, I've been, tooling around with AI." So, I mean, that's my take on it. Is don't lead with it, but just blow people's minds first. When they ask how you did it, then you can tell them.
Gotcha. Kevin, you're a gentleman, you're a scholar. We got some notes on the bottom. They could find you on LinkedIn, as you said. They could find you at clientcloningsystems.com. My guess is if you're a business owner and you're looking to grow your business, it's worth sending him a message on LinkedIn, getting on the phone, or just having a conversation with him. We've used him, right? So I know of his skill set and highly recommend it. So, I'm going to do a really quick commercial for you. He's a good guy. He's an honest broker and sometimes a little bit sleazy of a world. And, he's one of the guys that you could trust. Marco, we didn't get to harass you about your hat. So what's the lid today that you got on?
It's just the good old Texas Rangers, but it's black on black, so you can't
See it.
see a whole lot.
It's
I
not
do
dark
have
MAGA.
I do got
Yeah.
the patch. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
all right. So this is going to drop after the Super Bowl. So let's all look really, really smart. Who's going to have the best ad, do we think? And two is, what's your most favorite ad of the past? Realizing they're not direct response, right? We all come from the direct response world. But what's your
Right.
favorite, most iconic ad?
Well, so I'm going to plead the fifth here and say I hate Super Bowl ads as a general rule. But you know what? No, that's I don't want to sound like a snob here. My favorite one was so here's the deal with funny ads. You remember the ad, but sometimes you forget what they were selling. So there was one with Jerry Seinfeld or someone, they were running around going, yes, yes. It was a credit card commercial. And see, I don't remember it. And I
Probably
just
American
laughed my head
Express.
off.
Yeah, I think
That
he's the
might have been
spokesperson.
it.
Yeah.
But second place would be the Apple 1984 ad. I believe that was a Super Bowl ad. And so that's what I would say.
Okay. All right. For me, it's the Mean Joe Green where he throws the kid the trades for his Coke or his Pepsi. So it goes to show you, I can't recall what it is. So I think that's iconic, right? If I think about that and age myself, that I was able to watch that. I do think that I always hate when I was in corporate America. I always hated the Super Bowl, not because it was bad, but just because everybody critiques the ad, so therefore they think they could be a marketing person. Because I could do better ad. Oh, that Doritos, So who do I think is going to have a good ad? I don't know. I don't even know who's buying it. Sometimes. I think sometimes there's companies on there that surprise you, and so we'll judge it when we have you back on. We'll judge them. Marco, how about you?
I think I will always be uber respectful of what GoDaddy accomplished. They pretty much went from non-existence to, domain domination, and then they did it with the Super Bowl ad. So for about 2 or 3 years in a row, they just dominated that. And I think it just made their whole business. I really
dropping gold, baby.
Yeah.
I'm glad we closed with you because I couldn't even come up with one. So good job, all. We'll talk soon. Once again, folks, listen. If you are a business owner and you're thinking about a podcast, just pick up the phone. Or in this day and age, tweet or send an SMS message or LinkedIn. The folks at Pina Colada Media just have the quick conversation with you. It's easier than you thought. They help work with any budget, and it really positions you as a thought leader. I like doing them because I learn, right? I get to have really smart people on. So therefore, kind of lifts me up, but I also learn. And I've got like 5 things to do for my business just by spending 30 quick minutes with my good friend Marco and my good friend Kevin. So folks, Pina Colada Media, they make it easy for you. They are the sponsor of this podcast. And we're going to let some blues guitar kind of play us out. How's that sound?
That's it.
Thanks, guys.
Kevin, thanks so much. Always appreciate your knowledge. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Sales Mavericks and Marketing Rebels. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Keep pushing the limits in your business. And remember, the Mavericks and Rebels are always ahead of the game. Catch you next time.